It started like any other night. A few drinks, a few laughs, and hunger naturally followed. I strolled into a quiet, unassuming little bistro along Copenhagen's kitschy happening waterfront. I landed a window seat where I watched the never-ending parade of warmly dressed bicyclists streaming by. The sun was setting, transforming the window into a mirror. The waitress greeted me with a basic menu. Being close to the frigid sea, where the world's best cod hail from, there was only one choice in my mind: fish and chips. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of the doors to the kitchen being kicked open with the waitress's heavy boot. Before I saw it, I smelled it. The heavenly aroma of fried fish. She seemed to be walking in slow motion, like a sappy Hollywood romance movie, as the love interest is introduced for the first time, and the world comes to a standstill. Hair blowing back, a confident, model-esque walk, all the while as the steam rose off her serving tray. We made eye contact, and my heart skipped a beat. She said only 3 words. Fish and chips? Choking on my saliva, I managed to reply softly in a stutter. Yes. It was love at first sight. I'd never seen anything so gorgeous in my life. I don't know if it was the moonlight on the water, the fact that I was on vacation, the air in Denmark, or that this was the best plate of fish and chips I'd ever feasted my eyes upon. The 2 generously sized, voluptuous fillets were stacked against the perfectly placed and cut mini steak fries, an ample bounty. The fish was crusted in a mystery batter. It wasn't panko, it wasn't beer batter, and it wasn't tempura. It was darker, richer, crispier, and glistening, holding on to the moisture of the grease, but not saturated. My body reacted as I turned the plate in a circle, as if on a turntable, to examine it from every single angle. It was simply breathtaking. There was a part of me that felt it wrong to molest it in its natural state. It was perfect in this moment. But that voice was quickly extinguished as my hand reached for the fork. As I often do, I teased the flesh. I rarely ever pierce the meat. I take the dull side of the fork and apply graduating pressure to test how much moisture is in the crust and to hear that orgasmic sound of the breaking of that top layer, that crunch. But as beautiful as this dish was, the question remained: did she have the crunch factor? Yes. Oh, yes. My fork broke through the initial layer with very little coaxing. As I pierced the crust, a spurt of moisture spat out onto the bed of fries. It was easy to tell based on the viscosity of the liquid that the moisture was juice, not oil. I gasped and nearly fainted. I must have gotten a little carried away with my first intrusion upon the meaty tissue. What was intended to be just the tip led to my fork penetrating completely, lopping off a bite-sized morsel. I acknowledged that there was tartar sauce, but completely disregarded it for my first bite. I wanted to taste her naked, raw, without any sauce disguising her true essence. I closed my eyes, raised the fork to my nostrils, took a deep, lingering inhale, ushering her untamed aroma into my brain, into my memory forever. I then gently lowered her down to my mouth. I felt her heat. I parted my lips, extended my tongue, and welcomed her crispy, juicy deliciousness into me. I could hear and feel myself moaning, and I didn't care if anyone else did. I opened my eyes. As I started to chew, I caught a look of myself in the window. Even I was surprised to see the look upon my face. Pure ecstasy, bordering on wildly fulfilled and slightly out of control. I looked back down at the platter to see the fish still draining its juices onto the bed of fries. The scent of the fish merging and melding with the potatoes was too much. I had to taste one of the fries that had been christened. I anticipated that the juice had made the potatoes a bit soggy, so I lowered my expectations on the texture in exchange for the flavor I was seeking. But alas, I was wrong. As I pressed my fork into the center of the largest fry, glistening from the juice and the oil, topped with larger than normal chunks of sea salt, I heard and felt the resistance and the sound of the crispiness of its alluring exterior, only to have my fork easily penetrate completely through to the other side after piercing the sturdy exoskeleton of the perfectly cooked French fried potato. Like with my first bite of fish, I acknowledged that I had 2 types of Danish mayonnaise at my disposal to dip in, but once again, I wanted her nude, covered only in her natural juices and the juices of the manipulated fish laying lazily atop. Treating her like her predecessor, I lowered her to my nostrils. I took her essence into my nasal cavities and into my brain, ritualistically like foreplay, a brief and consensual courtship. Reaching full lung capacity, I exhaled through my mouth, parting my lips ever so slightly, lowering her to them at the same time. Eyes still tightly closed, I could feel her close, almost touching my sensitive and waiting mouth. I licked my lips, accidentally touching her with my tongue. It felt taboo, an unintentional breach of etiquette. I couldn't handle it anymore. I had to have her in my mouth to complete this menage a trois. She slipped in so gently and so fully. I let her sit on my tongue for a few moments, sucking the juices from her and feeling her first swell, then shrink with my suction. Then, without any warning, any mercy, restraint, nor use of teeth, like an animal, I suddenly and violently shoved her against the roof of my mouth, using only my pulsing tongue, with no regard, no apologies, bursting her open. Her taste was incredible. Fresh potato, exotic oils, a touch of salt, and of course, the juice from her sister plate mate, plank of fish. But what was equally as exciting was her texture, a mixture of crispiness, like the crust of a creme brulee done well, and the fluffy creaminess of her coveted, precious insides that felt like a hot puree. All of this was happening in my mouth at once. Again, too much for me to handle. I let out another audible, sustained moan of satisfaction and a cleansing exhale. From that moment forward, it was full fuck it mode. I would tease with each bite, a small bit of fish here, a large bit of potato there, mixing, matching sauces in ways that were not meant to be, and not feeling guilty or wrong in any way. At the climax of it all, before the great rapture, I abandoned the use of all utensils and found no reason for napkins, as my beard became a playground, a palette of flavors. And we must have been a sight to see as I detached from any cordiality, practicing zero manners, complete absence of etiquette. We slowed, took our time exploring one another fully, leaving an absolute bohemian mess behind. Admiring proudly the hedonistic evidence, I sat back in my food coma and reflected upon my never before reached level of satiation. And while I treasured this moment with every ounce of my being, I fear that I will forever chase this dragon, seeking forever an equal or greater pleasure in the future.